Welcome to the deep dive.
Hello.
We've got some interesting material today, digging into the COBIT 2019 framework, introduction and methodology.
That's right. We're focusing specifically on chapters 8, 9, and 10.
And the idea here is think of us as guides. We'll walk through this together, try to pull out what's really key and, why it should matter to you.
Exactly. It's not just about what the chapters say, but really unpacking the why and the how. We'll look at implementation, making the business case, and how COBIT fits with everything else.
Right. So first up, the practical steps for implementing enterprise governance of INT, that's Chapter 8. Then, how do you actually convince people this is worth doing? Chapter 9 covers making the case.
And finally, Chapter 10 puts COBIT in context with other standards, sort of the bigger picture view.
Okay, let's dive in then. Chapter 8, implementing enterprise governance of IT, or EGNIC. What's the big idea here?
Well, the key thing the COBIT implementation guide stresses right away is this needs an enterprise-wide view.
Not just an IT thing.
Definitely not. It's framed as an integral part of overall enterprise governance. Business and IT, they're seen as, totally integrated.
That's a pretty fundamental perspective shift for some places, I bet. And it says implementation should be handled as a program.
Yeah, that's crucial. It needs executive sponsorship, a clear scope, real, achievable goals. Thinking program, not just project, helps make it stick.
Okay, so if it's a program, how do they suggest you structure it? There's a 7-phase approach mentioned.
There is. It provides a clear roadmap. Phase 1 starts with, what are the drivers?
The why. What's actually kicking this off?
Exactly. You're identifying change drivers, maybe internal issues, external trends, performance problems, that kind of thing. It's about creating that initial desire for change, especially with the executives. And this is where you first outline the business case.
Ah, okay. So the business case isn't just something you write at the end to get funding. It starts right at phase 1.
Precisely. It's foundational. You use it to justify the whole thing and keep everyone focused on the outcomes.
Makes sense. So once you know why, phase 2 asks, where are we now? The current state.
Right. This is where you align INT objectives with the overall business strategy and risks. You pick out which governance and management objectives are most important for you. The framework mentions using design factors here to tailor it.
Design factor, yeah, that helps customize COBIT.
Exactly. And then you assess where you currently stand on those chosen objectives. What's your capability level right now?
So know the drivers, know the current state. Then phase 3 is where do we want to be? Setting the target.
Yep. Define your improvement targets. What capability level are you aiming for? Then you do a gap analysis and to figure out how to get from here to there.
Finding solutions.
Right. And the guidance, these solutions could be quick wins, or longer term things. Suggest maybe prioritizing easier wins with high benefit first to build momentum.
Good practical tip. Okay, phase 4. What needs to be done?
Now you plan it out. Define feasible projects, each one backed by, guess what?
The business case again?
The business case again. And you create a change plan. The business case here is key for identifying the benefits you expect, and then, crucially, monitoring if you actually get them.
Okay, plan's ready. Phase 5 is how do we get there? Action time.
This is the actual implementation, putting solutions into daily practice, setting up ways to measure and monitor, and success here really depends on engagement, communication, solid commitment from the top.
And real ownership from the business and IT folks involved.
Absolutely. People have to own it.
Then phase 6. Did we get there? Checking the results.
This is about embedding the changes, making them the new normal, monitoring against those metrics you set up, confirming if you achieve the benefits promised in the business case. Did we actually move the needle?
And it doesn't stop there. Phase 7, how do we keep the momentum going?
Exactly. Governance isn't a one-and-done project. This phase is about reviewing overall success, looking for new requirements as things change, reinforcing that continual improvement mindset, and prioritizing what comes next.
Yeah, that continuous cycle is really baked in. The framework even has that diagram, right, with continual improvement at the center.
Yeah, the inner cycle, then change enablement around that, and program management as the outer layer. It shows how it all works together.
And it mentions linking to the design guide for more detail on those early phases.
Right, phases 1, 2, and 3. The design guide helps with the specifics of selecting objectives and tailoring the scope.
So for anyone listening who's involved in driving change, this Chapter 8 roadmap gives a really solid, structured way to approach it from start to, well, continuous improvement.
It provides those essential guardrails.
Okay, let's shift now. If Chapter 8 was the how-to, Chapter 9 is all about justifying the why, making the case for adopting and implementing COBIT.
Exactly.
Mm.
And the core message here is you really need a strong business case. It's not just paperwork. It justifies the investment, gets buy-in. The chapter uses a pretty detailed example, Acme Corporation.
Yes, Acme. The large, complex multinational. Different business units, traditional and digital, decentralized, expanding fast, facing risks. Sounds familiar.
Very relatable for many organizations, I think. And the chapter walks through their business case. Starts, naturally, with an executive summary.
Needs to be concise. Acme's covers the scope, all entities, but needing prioritization, and mentions stakeholders, the challenges like managing those agile internet units.
The methodology using COBIT, the objectives boost capability, cut risk, add business value reporting, and that two-phase approach. Develop, test, then roll out. Sets the scene well.
Then the background section explains EGI in their context, part of corporate governance, IT performance and risk, fitting their decentralized model, reporting lines.
Right, it grounds EGI within Acme's reality. Then you get to the really juicy part, business challenges, the specific pain points.
This is where it gets real. Why do they need this?
And the list is revealing things like IT assurance being complex because the units are so different, managing tricky internet service models,
Yeah.
dealing with global entities, different cultures.
The decentralized control making things harder, implementing management levels with a, sometimes volatile tech workforce.
That constant balancing act between innovation and control. Setting risk levels for different units, meeting regulations like privacy, contracts like PCI.
And those recurring audit findings about weak IT controls, plus the pressure to deliver new services successfully. These are real business problems, not just IT jargon.
Absolutely. They make the need tangible. Then comes the gap analysis and goal.
States the core issue. No consistent framework, patchy adoption, low capability.
And the goal.
Huh.
Systematically improve capability and controls, tailored to each unit, focusing efforts wisely.
And the payoff. What's the expected outcome, they state?
Basically, risk identified and managed better, higher quality and efficiency, lower IT risk overall, and bottom line, increased business value. Connects the dots to the business.
The chapter also mentions alternatives considered.
It does. Acknowledges other frameworks exist, but positions COBIT as a leading choice for EGI, hence Acme's decision. But it also stresses you don't implement all of COBIT necessarily.
Right, tailor it based on the unit's needs, objectives, risk, regulations.
Exactly. And it says map other frameworks back to COBIT for clarity. Then we get the proposed solution.
Broken into two phases. Phase 1 is pre-planning development. Lots of practical steps listed.
Yeah, things like finalizing the team, training, defining the approach, knowledge sharing, stakeholder ID, clarifying roles, developing the full business case and comms plan.
Creating assessment tools, testing locally, piloting abroad, getting final approval. Solid groundwork.
And phase 2, program implementation and continual improvement, which directly follows.
The 7-phase life cycle from Chapter 8, it connects the justification directly to the implementation plan.
Precisely. The business case also details the program scope.
Covering all entities, but prioritizing. It even suggests how to prioritize size, earnings, risk, and getting agreement on the first batch.
Smart. And the program methodology and alignment section describes how they'll do it.
Facilitated workshops, starting with business leaders first.
Yes, CEO, CFO, to ensure alignment with business goals before bringing in the IT side like the CTO and CIO. They use a COBIT-based tool to combine objectives and risk to find the real focus areas. Ensures the effort is targeted.
Makes sense. What about deliverables? What do they expect to get out of it?
Concrete things. Knowledge sharing setup, detailed reports for each unit showing objectives, risks, focus areas, overall progress reports, consolidated group reporting for the execs and risk committee.
Financials on the program itself and tracking those benefits, accountability.
The case also touches on program risk. It says risks are considered and mitigated, tracked via reviews, and a risk register, standard program management practice.
And finally, stakeholders are listed out.
Yeah, a long list. Risk committee, IT execs, governance team, compliance, regional and local management, internal audit. Shows how many people this touches.
So this Chapter 9 example, using Acme, really gives you a template. Whether you need to get buy-in or just understand how to frame the value of this kind of initiative, it lays out the arguments clearly.
It shows you how to build that justification from the ground up.
Okay, one more chapter to cover. Chapter 10, COBIT and other standards. Where does COBIT fit in the grand scheme of things?
The main principle here is that COBIT positions itself as a generally accepted framework for INT governance. It's built on decades of experience and integrates current thinking. They often call it an umbrella framework.
An umbrella. I like that analogy. What does that mean practically?
It means COBIT isn't trying to replace every single standard or framework out there. Instead, the idea is that a governance framework like COBIT should align with and kind of sit over other major related standards and regulations.
So it works with things like ITIL or ISO standards.
Exactly. You're likely already using some of these. The chapter actually lists the specific standards, frameworks, regulations that were considered when COBIT 2019 was developed.
We don't need the whole list, but the point is it's designed to integrate.
That's the core idea. It provides that governance layer on top of things like ITIL for service management or ISO 2701 for security or specific regulations you have to comply with. COBIT helps ensure all those different activities are aligned with the business goals and are governed effectively.
It helps tie everything together from a governance viewpoint.
Right. It helps you coordinate across different silos or functions.
And for you listening, this is important because, let's face it, you're probably not operating in a vacuum with just one framework.
Almost certainly not.
Understanding how COBIT connects to things you already use helps you see the bigger picture. You can leverage existing efforts and understand COBIT's specific role as that overarching governance layer, avoids confusion or duplication.
It provides that essential connecting tissue at the top.
Well, that brings us through chapters 8, 9, and 10 of the COBIT 2019 Introduction and Methodology. Quite a journey.
It was. We looked at the 7-phase implementation roadmap in Chapter 8. That whole program approach focused on continual improvement.
Then Chapter 9 gave us that detailed Acme business case, showing how to justify the need for EJIT by linking it to real challenges and expected value.
And Chapter 10 positioned COBIT as that umbrella, showing how it integrates with and provides governance over other common standards and frameworks.
Our goal here was really to cut through some of the density, highlight the core messages, and hopefully give you some of those aha moments.
Connect the dots a bit.
Exactly. And maybe one final thought to leave you with, something the framework really hammers home.
Is that EJIT implementation isn't just a project you finish. It's an ongoing program of continual improvement.
Right. So given how fast technology and business change, how does that idea, thinking of governance as this continuous effort to sustain momentum and adapt, how might that change the way you approach these kinds of initiatives in your own work? Something to chew on.
Definitely food for thought. That idea of sustaining momentum is key.
That's our deep dive for today. Thanks for joining us.